Welcome to Midnight Story, where forgotten legends whisper through time, and haunted truths rise beneath the silence of history. Tonight, we invite you to walk through the ancient gates of a fortress once ruled by kings, stolen by colonizers, and watched over by restless spirits. This is the story of Fort Rotterdam, a place where walls do not forget. Let the night unfold. Fort Rotterdam stands as a silent sentinel in the heart of Makassar, South Sulawesi. Behind its thick stone walls lies a deep and complex story, one that speaks of resistance, colonization, cultural legacy, and whispered legends that echo across centuries. This historic site is more than just a remnant of the past. It is a living monument to the transformation of a region once ruled by powerful kings and challenged by foreign ambitions. The origins of Fort Rotterdam trace back to the 17th century. During the golden age of the Gowa Kingdom, a dominant maritime power in eastern Indonesia, around the year 1634, under the leadership of the 9th king of Gowa, Imangarani Dying Mandrabiya, also known as Sultan Alauddin, the original fortification was constructed. It was called Benten Ujung Pandang. Initially, this fortress was made of hardened clay and had a square-shaped layout. Its primary function was defensive, built to protect the city of Makassar and its vital port from both internal conflict and growing European colonial threats, especially the Dutch. As Makassar's wealth and influence grew, so too did the strength of its defenses. The clay walls were replaced by sturdy black stones imported from Karst Islands off the Makassar coast. The fortress's shape was modified to resemble a sea turtle facing the Ashona, meaningful symbol in Bugis Makassar cosmology, representing perseverance, wisdom, and the ability to return home despite adversity. The Dutch East India Company, or VOC, Verenigd Oostindische Company, was expanding its influence across the archipelago. Makassar's independence and openness to all trading nations threatened the VOC's ambition to monopolize the spice trade. Tensions escalated into full conflict. In 1666, the VOC, led by Cornelis Spielman, allied with Arang Palaka, the exiled Prince of Bone, and launched a military campaign against Goa. The resulting conflict, known as the Makassar War, became one of the most decisive colonial battles in eastern Indonesia. In 1669, the fortress fell into Dutch hands. Following the Treaty of Bangaya, the Kingdom of Gowa was forced to cede control of the fort. The Dutch renamed it Fort Rotterdam, after Spielman's hometown in the Netherlands. Under VOC control, Fort Rotterdam was transformed into a major administrative and military base for the Dutch in eastern Indonesia. Its structure was expanded and reinforced. Red-tiled colonial buildings, storage depots, officers' quarters, and prison cells were constructed within its walls. The fort served as the Dutch headquarters in Sulawesi for over 2 centuries. It was not just a military compound, but also a site of governance, trade, and scientific study. Dutch researchers and missionaries operated from inside the fort, working to understand and control the native populations. Perhaps its most famous prisoner was Prince Diponegoro, the legendary Javanese leader of the Java War, who was exiled and held in Fort Rotterdam after his capture in 1830. He remained in custody within the fort's cells until his death in 1855. His prison cell, still preserved, is now a pilgrimage site for those who admire his resistance against colonial rule. Beyond the historical facts, Fort Rotterdam is enveloped in layers of folklore passed down through generations. Local residents and visitors have long shared tales of the mysterious and the unexplained, stories that give the fort an eerie, spiritual dimension. One of the most enduring legends speaks of a secret underground tunnel connecting the fort to the sea and nearby lae-lae Island. While its existence has never been proven archaeologically, many believe it served as an emergency escape route or smuggling path during times of siege. Another haunting story involves the spirit of a Dutch soldier, often seen patrolling the upper walls of the fort. Witnesses describe him as wearing a dark colonial uniform, his face pale and expressionless, appearing at dusk before vanishing into thin air. This spirit is believed to be a former officer who took his own life after suffering defeat and dishonor. There are also reports of a ghostly woman in white, said to be the spirit of a native concubine who was imprisoned and died within the fort. Her figure is sometimes seen floating across the central courtyard, her eyes filled with sorrow, her movements silent and slow. The dungeon cells, particularly the one that held Prince Diponegoro, are said to radiate a deep, somber energy. Guides often refuse to enter alone at night. Some claim to hear whispers or the faint sound of chains dragging across the stone floor. Following Indonesia's declaration of independence in 1945, Fort Rotterdam gradually lost its military significance. It was later repurposed by the Indonesian government for cultural and educational uses. Today, the fort serves as a major heritage site, managed by the local authority and the museum lae-lae. Within the museum, visitors can find a vast collection of artifacts from the Bugis and Makassar civilizations and ancient manuscripts, traditional weapons, maritime tools, and royal garments. The museum acts as a bridge between the present and the past, offering deep insights into the cultural identity of South Sulawesi. The fort also functions as a cultural space, hosting art festivals, theatrical performances, academic seminars, and community events. Through this transformation, Fort Rotterdam remains alive not as a place of war, but as a home for shared memory and creative expression. Fort Rotterdam is a symbol. It stands for power, for pain, for perseverance. It embodies centuries of struggle between kingdoms and empires, between resistance and occupation, between remembrance and silence. Today, as one walks through the gate or stands on its parapets, gazing out to the sea, the echoes of the past still linger. They drift through the humid air like forgotten prayers. The clash of swords, the creaking of wooden ships, the cries of prisoners, faint but unforgettable. And yet, the fort is not only a place of sorrow, it is a place of education, of reflection, of cultural pride. Through preservation and storytelling, Fort Rotterdam continues to speak to new generations. It reminds them that behind every wall is a story, behind every shadow is a truth. The stones of Fort Rotterdam have witnessed centuries of triumph and tragedy. They carry the echoes of empires, the cries of prisoners, and perhaps the footsteps of something still wandering. If you ever find yourself standing inside its walls, listen. You might hear history breathe. Thank you for joining us on this journey through shadow and time. This has been Midnight Story, where every story begins after dark. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, because legends live on when they're told. Until the next midnight, sleep if you can.